Quick poll, show of hands down in the comment section. How many people out there in my audience have seen this meme before floating around on the internet? It's a young couple, they're laying in bed, back to back. She's faced one way, he's faced the other. And she's looking over her shoulder at the guy and just absolutely sure that the reason that they're not engaged in some type of a romantic activity, that he's thinking about other women. Well, he of course is not, and there's all sorts of different answers that are put into the lower right. In this particular one, he's just laying there wondering, if two vegans are arguing, is it still considered a beef? Which is kind of funny, but there's 1,000 different iterations. But why are we talking about this? Well, it has to do with something related to psychological operations. We've just put up a brand new video over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel that does a huge military level deep dive into this particular cognitive bias. It's called fundamental attribution error. You see, she's making an assumption that he's just morally failed, that she's there and she's willing, but because he's just this horrible man that he's obviously thinking about going off with some other woman and doing something else, when really 99% of the time guys are thinking about ridiculous, silly stuff like this. It's called fundamental attribution error. It's the idea that, for example, if she were to ghost him, like say he would send her a text and then she wouldn't respond for 6 or 8 or 10 hours if she was busy. It would be like him thinking, oh, she's sleeping with some other guy. When it's someone else doing something that inconveniences us, we always attribute it to some moral failing on their part. But when we do something that inconveniences or is disrespectful to someone else, maybe intentionally or not, it's because, well, this was happening in my life, or that was happening in my life, or this other thing. We never attribute to ourselves the same moral failings we attribute to others. And that's key. Now, real quick, before I go any farther, God bless all of you. Thank you so much for continuing to stand by the Florida Maquis, stay at the Patreon channel. I very, very, very much appreciate it. It's the only reason I'm doing any videos at all anymore, to be very truthful. It's just the way the dynamics have worked. If you don't believe me, Jennifer Veterans for Truth left the platform years ago. The Patriot Nurse, who's been a stalwart warrior on YouTube, even now has been reduced to doing maybe 1 or 2 videos a month. And she's even said it before that she'll only do videos as long as God puts it on her heart. If you'd like to join us, Florida Maquis Patreon channel, love to have you over there. It's totally up to you. Pray about it. But the best part is, it's fully refundable. If you sign up within the first 90 days, meaning today is what, like the 17th? 17th of March, April, May, June. It'd be the 17th of June before you would really risk losing any money. You'd have 90 days to go over there, watch all the videos, kick the tires. If it's not for you, all that, whatever you pledge comes right back at you. God bless you. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. Let's get right to it. I have a question, and then we talk about this over at the Patreon channel. I've talked about these two YouTube personalities before, and it's emblematic of the arguments that are being made about the direction of our country right now. You see, on the left, we have Kim Iverson. For a long time, she was a Democrat progressive. When COVID hit, with all the mandates, she decided, you know what, this is unpopular. I'm going to move over to the independent side so I don't lose all my audience. She's Asian, but she's very, very, very anti-Israel. Anti-Bibi Netanyahu, calls him Satan Yahoo, thinks he's the worst thing that ever happened to the world, that all Jews, all Israel, if we could just delete Israel from all of the globe, everything would just be, roses and sunshine and happy little bunnies hopping all over the place. And she's a progressive. Now, over on the right, we have the Patriot Nurse. Now, she's Jewish. She's very pro-Israel. She's Torah observant. But she's pro-gun, pro-founding fathers. She's very conservative. So who's the real enemy? I know a lot of my audience thinks that Israel's the real enemy, but we have a story here in Florida that actually gives us a little bit of a closer look at what the real problem is. How many of you have seen the stories coming out of Daytona Beach? It's only about half an hour from where I'm sitting right now. The stories coming out of spring break at Daytona Beach. All of the mayhem and all of the nonsense. How many of you have seen this? Funny story. There's been spring break going on in Daytona for a long time without all of these problems. The businesses used to love it. They used to make a lot of money. They used to make tons and tons and tons of money, and it was great fun for college kids on spring break. You see, these aren't college kids, are they? What's the real problem in America? This is more video from the events of spring break that, I went down and never saw anything like this going on. Once in a great while, there might be a couple of guys throw blows, but it never turned into this mayhem that just goes on nonstop into the early hours of the morning. I wonder what the real problem is. And it ties into something else. This surprised and shocked a lot of people. Sheriff Grady Judd. Now, if anybody doesn't realize about the sheriffs in Florida, they aren't like sheriffs anywhere else. There's a man named Sheriff Wayne Ivey who came out and said that if somebody breaks into your house, we will. I can't remember if Sheriff Judd said this or Sheriff Ivey said this. Sheriff Wayne Ivey is from Brevard County. That if someone breaks in your house, we prefer that you shoot them dead. They said here that if you ever throw anything at a police officer, you're going to go home in a casket, and they'll let your family know. These people don't play when it comes to crime. Now, here's what really blew people's minds. Sheriff Grady Judd came out and said regarding illegal aliens that there are people, Hispanic in origin, who came here a long time ago, illegally. They have jobs. They have families. They have kids in school. They are productive members of society. They pay taxes. That there needs to be some type of a pathway for them. And this actually echoes what President Trump said recently, not during the campaign, of course, not when he needed your vote. But now he's saying, these people that are actually working and living the American dream and contributing to society that are Hispanic, there needs to be a pathway forward for them to learn how to speak English properly and all this type of thing. And boy, you should see the hate this guy's getting now after all the good he's done. The point of what I'm saying is that, you see, Sheriff Grady Judd, after decades and decades and decades in police service, he knows what the real problem in America is. You see, it's not college kids on spring break. He knows what the real problem is in America. One of these two people knows what the real problem is in America. And the reason we have the problem is this. You see, people see socialism and hear the word socialism and they cringe. Socialism is just enforced civilization. Let me say that again. Socialism is just enforced civilization. Now, when you let a certain people run wild, certain group run wild, do whatever they want, freedom, liberty, blah, 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 neither of these two things works. Because we can see directly now in Daytona Beach what capitalism does. We can see in our inner cities what socialism does when they're not here. You see, when they're here, taking advantage of capitalism and bringing all their money and trying to booze it up and party and buy this, buy that, buy the other, rent rooms, all this stuff, it turns into total mayhem, doesn't it? When they go back home to their socialist inner cities up north, they ruin those as well. We can continue. As long as I'm president, America will never be a socialist country. How many of you remember the Me Too movement? Remember when they put Harvey Weinstein in jail? Harvey Weinstein asked a prospective Fox News gal to stand up and twirl. She was wearing a dress. Stand up and twirl. And he went to jail for that. Is rotting away in a prison cell. Because he asked a woman who was asking him for a job to stand up and just twirl around in the dress that she was wearing. Funny thing, guess how Anna Paulina Luna got elected? This was her first ad. She put on a MAGA, well, it's not a bikini even, really. It's a one-piece. Little cheeky in the back. Did herself a little spin. See, she was an adult entertainer. See, that's fine. That's not even a little bit hypocritical. Well, where's the Me Too movement calling her out for doing that, the little twirl? In a bathing suit, no less, much less a dress. And why is it that in all of these socialist countries, Croatia, Slovenia, Iceland, Georgia, Switzerland, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Netherlands, and you can add Poland in there as well, why are they amongst the safest places to walk at night? They're all socialist countries. I thought socialism destroys the moral fiber and fabric of society and causes the decline. Really? Why not in those 11 places? What's the difference? I think we can see the difference. Florida gubernatorial candidate James Fishback proposes an OnlyFans sin tax of 50% for creators in Florida. I thought capitalism was a good thing. See, that's what OnlyFans is. In essence, it's a girl of her own volition deciding, you know what, I'm going to get a camera, I'm going to get a ring light, I'm going to go buy a bunch of fancy lingerie and stuff, and I'm going to click pictures of me and put them on this site and hope guys pledge me $2 and $3 and $5 a month, and that'll pay my bills. What I didn't bring up here, and I wish I would, is the top 10 creators on OnlyFans don't look anything like the girl pictured here. The top 10 creators, multi-millionaires, many times over, in just the 6 or 8 years that platform has been around. Tens of millions of dollars don't look anything like this girl pictured. But this is a guy who's a conservative who wants to overtax capitalism he doesn't agree with. Isn't that interesting? Now, I know this is very, very small lettering. I don't expect anyone to read it on the screen. I'm going to read it for you. It's from a long time ago. The origins of totalitarianism, as opposed to capitalism, fascism, socialism, communism. Here's the quote. Hannah Arendt. The moment we no longer have a free press, anything can happen. What makes it possible for a totalitarian or any other dictatorship to rule is that the people are not informed. How can you have an opinion if you're not informed? If everybody always lies to you, the consequence is not that you believe the lies, but rather that nobody believes anything any longer. This is because lies, by their very nature, have to be changed, and a lying government has to constantly to rewrite its own history. On the receiving end, you get not only one lie, a lie which you could on for the rest of your days, but you get a great number of lies, depending on how the political wind blows. And a people that no longer can believe anything cannot make up its mind. It is deprived not only of its capacity to act, but also of its capacity to think and to judge. And with such a people, you can then do what you please. The result of a consistent and total substitution of lies for factual truth is not that the lie will now be accepted as truth, and truth be defamed as a lie, but that the sense by which we take our bearings in the real world and the category of truth versus falsehood is among the mental means to this end is being destroyed. And that's what's going on. That's why we believe men can be women when we allow conservative talk show Trump-loving gay Dave Rubin to have a friend named David Janet, and then they can sodomize each other over and over again, and then people pretend they're husbands, and then they can take their sperm and give it to a woman, pay her an exorbitant amount of money, she'll inject herself with it, and then abracadabra, a baby comes out, she hands over the baby. This is basically child trafficking. And then everybody celebrates. Why? Because Dave Rubin loves Donald Trump. And everybody celebrates, and nobody knows what the real problem is. You see, which is it? Is NATO useless, or does NATO need to send ships? This is the issue. The Bible doesn't say defend Israel or bless Israel because they are the most perfect, most moral, most righteous group of people on the planet, and that's why I chose them as my children. And here's my book, the Bible, where I show you story after story after story after story of my people being always obedient and never doing anything wrong. That's why you need to defend them. That's not what the Bible says. It doesn't say, well, go find the group of people out there that you believe in your modern sensibility is the most righteous and then defend them, and anybody else who I say defend, well, make your own moral judgment about that, and then we'll... The Bible doesn't say that, does it? It says defend Israel. And this individual has now had Christians bring this to her, and she can't defend it, so now she's attacking the Bible. She's saying that our country is now run by the Schofield Bible, by dispensationalists, because she can't argue with the fact that Israel, the people that God said, this is my chosen people, those who bless them I will bless, those who curse them I will curse, she can't deal with the fact that they're not a perfect people, and that they would have to be a perfect people for God to bless them or choose them. Defying the whole nature of the message of Christ is that you stand no chance against sin. It is only the blood of Jesus Christ that allows you to be absolved from sin. This idea that you've conquered sin. This idea that even anybody who's baptized, oh, I have beaten sin, I have conquered sin, I am beyond sin. No, you haven't. You're going to sin for the rest of your life. It doesn't make you not a man. It just makes you aware that you are a sinful, fallen creature. Just like Jews. They're just like any other human beings. Patriot nurse. I don't agree with everything she says. Doesn't matter. She is, by blood, the chosen people of God. Period. It doesn't matter whether her genealogy is German or Polish or wherever it is. She's Jewish. Period. She is Israel. That is just the way it is. And if you'd like a full breakdown, we've talked about this before. I'll probably talk about it in the next video. That when you can go read this in the Bible, the disciples asked Jesus, what is the kingdom of heaven like? And he said, it is like unto a wedding. And he describes the bride. He describes the bridegroom. He describes the servants and the guests. See, all four of them have a different role in the kingdom of heaven. Israel is the bride. Jesus is the bridegroom. Guess who the servants and the guests are? I'll leave it there. So, once again, God bless. Thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. Join us on Patreon. Very much appreciate it. Pray for each other. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.